What's up, everyone? So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how much a software engineer makes. And I'm going to talk about that at the different job levels. And in order to do that, I'm going to explain what all these different job levels are. So up here in my screen, I have levels.fyi, great resource. I'm going to teach you in this video also how to use that to know what the top of the band is for a particular job. Anyway, like I have a bunch of companies here that are, and I put Microsoft in here because it's still a pretty prestigious company, and it's probably the most granular company in terms of their job leveling. So you have the entry level SDE is level 59, then you have level 60, doesn't even have a name. Then SDE 2, 61, and so on. As you see, there's a lot more levels in Microsoft than in all these other companies. But the rule of thumb is most companies model themselves after Google and Facebook and Amazon. And the way that those work is you have basically three levels. These are like the three main levels of engineers. Apple has an additional one, junior. And the reason why I say those are the three main levels is because I was at Amazon at AWS for 2 years, and I met two principal engineers, zero senior principals. I think I heard of one. I don't even remember his name, and I never even heard of a single distinguished engineer. So like that tells you just how rare they are. So there will be like one principal SDE per like 100 engineers. Senior principals is like one in 1,000, and distinguished is probably like, I don't know, one in 3,000 or something like that. So those are very rare job levels. Like the extent of the ladder, like where the vast majority of the employees are at, is these three levels. And let's talk about what these three levels are. So as an entry level SD1, you're typically somebody right out of college. At most, they have like a year and a half of experience. And this is a person that when they get hired, if they're straight out of college, they're pretty much not expected to be able to do anything. They're the first couple of months, you're basically not expected to contribute at all. And the first whole year, you're basically onboarding. So you're expected to contribute, make very minor contributions for that first year while you're learning everything that you need to learn in order to be a productive member of the team. Because it's not only that you need to learn, like when I came in, I needed to learn a lot about the systems within Systems Manager, but I already was a capable engineer. So I didn't really need to learn software engineering. These people that come in at this level, they come straight out of college, they know nothing about software engineering, so they need to learn software engineering, and they need to learn about the systems and the specific platform that they're working on. Then SDE2 is what the daily job of an SDE2 is. Basically you lead smaller features. So maybe you will create a new API to do XYZ, right? And you take ownership of that feature end to end, and you write the technical specification, and you get it reviewed by some senior engineers, and then you see the feature development end to end. There's a spectrum of projects, right? So typically you're the first thing that you lead end to end, you start doing that as SDE1. So they'll give you something like, hey, add a parameter to this API that allows the user to control this behavior. So like you have an API for, I don't know, launching EC2 instances, and then you can add a parameter called delay, and then what that parameter does is launches the EC2 instance after however many seconds the delay is. That's not a real example, but something like that would be a relatively simple and very clear-cut feature that an SD1 might get in order to implement it end to end. So if they're, like they've already been in the company for a year and a half, and they've earned the trust of their teammates, and the manager's looking to test them to see if they may be ready for the next level, they would give them a very small project like that. An SDE2, like once you've done a couple of those projects as an SDE1, then you move on to SDE2, and then you do bigger projects. So like build a whole new API that does XYZ. And as you move on towards like the higher level of the spectrum as an SDE2, what's going to happen is that you're going to take in on more and more ambiguous projects. And then eventually you're going to be taking on projects that are SDE3 quality. And once you've taken on a couple of those, then you're going to apply for promotion and hopefully get promoted to SDE3. And SDE3s deal with projects that are completely ambiguous. So it'll be something like there's a customer need, and the customers don't even really know what they would like in order to have that need met. And then it's up to the SD3 to disambiguate all those requirements and remove all the ambiguity and figure out a solution that works and that fulfills the customer need and advances engineering posture of the organization in the way that the principal engineers of the organization want to advance it. So that's basically the three job levels. And now let's talk about compensation. In order to talk about compensation, we have to talk about the components of the compensation. So there's three or four components really. There's the salary, the RSU grant, so the stock, and then the sign-on bonus and the yearly pay bonus. So let's talk about all of those. Salary is pretty straightforward. It's your base salary in cash. Then the bonus is always also somewhat straightforward. Different companies pay different types of bonuses. So Amazon doesn't actually pay a performance bonus, a yearly performance bonus. My current employer Noom does. Facebook also does, to my knowledge. And what that is basically, hey, look, your target bonus amount is like 30% of your base salary or something like that. And then how that ends up working out is if you meet expectations, you get the 30%. If you exceed expectations, so you're like in the top 10% of performers, you get more than your target compensation. And if you don't meet expectations, you're in the bottom like 20%, you get less. And then, so that's the yearly performance bonus. There's also a signing bonus. So a lot of these companies will give you a signing bonus for many, many different reasons. When I joined Noom, they gave me a signing bonus because I had used two relocations with Amazon, and I still like the relocation has like a block out period of 2 years, and my 2 years were not up for my second relocation, so they were gonna claw back a bunch of money. So Noom paid me a sign-on bonus to offset that, and then there's also sign-on bonus. Amazon is huge on the sign-on bonus because what they do is like your vesting schedule at Amazon is very different from other companies, and they offset that with a sign-on bonus. So they give pretty big and hefty sign-on bonuses. So let's talk about what the stock vesting schedule is. So they tell you, hey, you get $22,000 worth of stock per year. What does that mean? That you're getting what they really give you in your offer letter is a 4-year grant of stocks, and they tell you the target dollar amount of that grant. Actually, they tell you the number of shares, and that number of shares will be based on a target number of dollars that they want to give you. So let's say that the share price of that company, of whatever company you're getting an offer from, is $100. And let's say that your target RSU grant is $200,000. So they will give you 2,000 shares. So at $100 times 2,000, that's 200,000. So they'll give you 2,000 shares, and they vest over 4 years. So during the first year, you vest nothing. After the end of the first year, you vest 25% of it. So that's 500 shares. And then there's a bunch of different ways that companies do this. Some vest quarterly, some vest monthly. But out of the 1,500 shares that are left, if you're vesting monthly, you vest one, because there's 36 months left, you vest 1/36 of that of those 1,500 shares every month. If it's quarterly, then you vest proportionally every 3 months. At Amazon, it's a little bit different. So let's say that your same situation. Let's say that the Amazon stock price was $100 and they want to give you 2,000 shares for your RSU grant over the 4 years. So like you're going to vest 5% of those shares after year one. Then you're going to vest 15% of those shares after year two. And thereafter, every 6 months, you're going to vest, what is it? Over 4 chunks, you're going to vest the remaining 80%. So you're going to vest 20% every 6 months. So that's how the RSUs work. I think it's important to understand that every single reputable company is going to pay you in stocks. And this is a very important thing, and probably the subject for another video, but it's a very important thing to know and understand. The solidness, or whatever, how solid the company is very, very important, because like something like, 10 to 40% of your compensation is going to be in stock, sometimes even more. And that's why I think that even though a lot of people don't consider Amazon to be a tier one employer, and they take a dump on Amazon, I think that Amazon and Microsoft are the two most rock solid companies out of these big tech companies. And if you look at the share performance of many of the other ones, like Uber is one of the hottest payers, but their share performance hasn't been great compared to Microsoft and Amazon. So there's something to think about there. So now let's talk about how to understand what the pay bands are for each of these. So, like, I'm familiar with what a senior software engineer would make at Amazon, so I'm going to explore that. So, like, the way that you do that is you come here and then you click on View Data Points. And I already have that tab open. So right here you see a bunch of individual data points. So this person has a 377,000 total compensation, and then this person has 460,000. This person has 375. This person has 277. They're getting really ripped off. And so I opened up a couple of the offer details here. So like, okay, so like if you see 277, for example, and you click on view all details, then you're gonna see what it's all about. So base salary 177, stock grant is $100,000 per year, no bonus because they're probably an old employee. So like maybe they just got promoted into SDE3. They got 10 years of experience, 6 years of the company. So yeah, definitely they're past their 4-year vest and definitely, or they're past their 2 years, so there's definitely no bonus. The bonus at Amazon only applies for the first 2 years. At other companies is typically, if it's a performance bonus, it's every year. If it's a sign-on bonus, it's only the first year. And yeah, so that's what this SDE is making. Now let's look at this one. This is really good for SDE3. It's not the top of the band, but it's really, really good. And base salary 225, stock grant per year 235. So this person has 8 years of experience, 8 years at the company. I'm really intrigued by this person. I want to understand what they did. I expect that they are an amazing, valued member of the team, and they probably went and got an offer from Meta or Uber or something, and then they just really wanted to stay at Amazon, so they did that only to get a counter from their manager that was probably approved by a VP or something like that. But yeah, like I really want to understand what this person did. I'm completely speculating about it. I don't know. But I'm really intrigued because typically when you've been at a company for a long time, you're like towards the bottom of the pay band, and this person is doing very well for themselves. This one, another SD3. So this one is 500,000. This is an offer. Base salary 200, stock grant 187, bonus. So this is a new hire offer. Bonus 112,500. So if you see here, the salary is lower than this other one, and the stock grant is much, much lower, but they have a crazy, crazy hefty sign-on bonus. And the total compensation being 500,000, look at what it says right here. It's a VP approved offer. So what I understand from that, and I'm not 100% sure what this means, but I think that this is not a regular offer, that this required VP approval. And that's awesome. Good for you for negotiating, dude. But that tells me right here, the fact that I see this, that there's some other details type of thing. This is not a regular offer. This is probably the top of the band for a new hire at Amazon. This is probably the most you can expect. And then I have another one right here, another person who negotiated really well, 227 base salary, 250 stock grant, 9 years at the company, 5 years at this level already. So they're fantastic. And there's another one here that I wanted to show. Yeah, so one big point to make here is that the average doesn't really tell you anything. The average is, there's a ton of people way below the average and a ton of people way above the average. So you really want to understand, you really want to dig into these data points and understand what the top of the band is for your role. Because don't do something like this. Look, let's look at this one. Look at this offer details. So this one, total comp is 550, base salary 210, stock grant 212, bonus 127. That is a crazy banging bonus. But this is a senior applied scientist. So like this is like some type of like machine learning specialist or like a natural language processing specialist, something like that. And that's probably not you. It's certainly not me. So like I wouldn't expect to be able to make this money coming into Amazon. And this is probably out of reach for the vast majority of people, unless you're coming in with some kind of like crazy, crazy credential. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically how I go about browsing salaries and understanding the different levels and the different levels of compensation. So let's see another example right here. We go Facebook and let's view the data points, and you see the spread. Look, this is a Facebook E3, right? So this is the entry level programmer, sort of entry level, right? Like I said, sometimes people come in at E3 and they have like a little bit of experience. But this person, base salary 118, stock grant 40 grand, bonus 75. they're in ML. So I guess they got a really good offer. They had really good ML skills, and that is fantastic. 233 at E3 is just fantastic. It's like this guy like blew out the competition. So look at this. This is a very big time outlier for an E3. Oh, it's an SDET, so it's an SDE test. So I don't know how that job role works, but yeah, typically one thing that you see at these companies is that if you have more than 3 years 3 4 years of experience, you can't get hired as the entry level position. They just think that if at the point that you have 3 4 years of experience, you can't hack it as an SDE too. They basically interpret that as like you suck and you're never going to grow professionally, and so they don't want to hire you. And but yeah, so like if I were looking at an E3 position, again, this is distributed systems backend as an E3. This actually looks kind of legit, man. Like let's see, view all details. So base salary 120, stock grant 125, bonus 12. This actually looks legit. This actually looks like if you have 3 years of experience and you have solid distributed systems experience, and Facebook offers you an E3 job level, this is what I would be shooting for. This would be my top of the band if I was in that situation. If I'm a new college grad, then I'm looking basically for all the zero zeros. What's the highest 00? And it looks like it's around 200K. And yeah, for if you did awesome in the interview, you knocked it out of the park, and they came back and offered you 160, then you can probably ask for 200. It also depends on how well you did on the interview. Like if they can't come back and offer you 140, you know that you didn't do that well, and just from the fact that they gave you an offer that's kind of like towards the low end of the compensation band, and then you're not going to be able to negotiate 200. But if the offer is sort of close to the top end of the compensation band, like 165, something like that, 170, and because of your understanding of body language and how you communicated with your interviewers that you did really well, then yeah, dude, shoot for the 200 grand. So yeah, that's basically everything I wanted to say today. I hope that was informative, and please like and subscribe, and I'll bring you a lot more content about compensation and advancing your engineering career.